bound together, one another, nothing could separate we from.
Well, the countdown is on for the Tobago House of Assembly election, and you can stay tuned to TV6 for extensive coverage on Election Day, which will be on December 6th. The Progressive Democratic Patriots are confident of a win after their 6-6 deadlock with the People's National Movement in January. That's where they nabbed 4 additional seats. Can the PDP muster enough votes to secure a victory? Well, we are on the hustings this morning, and we're joined by the candidate for Bell Garden, Glamorgan, the incumbent, Dr. 𝐓𝒡𝒉 𝑩. Thank you so much for joining us. She's, of course, also the deputy political leader of the PDP. Good morning again, and thank you for joining us. If we could just kick off, Dr. 𝐓𝒡𝒉 by telling us what is the mood and sentiment in your camp at this point in time?
Good morning, Ms. Ripner, and good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. You know, this is pretty an exciting time. After our January election, when we came out with that 6-6 tie, the people of Tobago have been saying they want to go back to the elections. They want to go back to the elections quickly so that they can decisively show who they want to govern the island of Tobago. And because of that, our camp, we are pretty excited. We have been waiting patiently for the opportunity to really get to really show what kind of development we can bring to the island of Tobago. So we are happy that it is happening in a little under 3 weeks from now. We are ready, we are pumped. We have been doing this for quite some time. We launched our campaign coincidentally the same day that the 15 seats was announced, and we have been gearing and ready to go.
Of course, we're heading into the election at a precarious time on, the health front, where we appear to be on this upward spike, on this surge. How has that been affecting, your campaign and your ability to mobilize and so on?
Well, it has been affecting it somewhat because individuals are pretty excited to come out and show their support, which means we kind of have to temper people. We are Trinbagonians. We look for any reason to be happy and to show that we are really supporting, and political campaigns, being on the hustings is a part of that. We also have to understand that people really have been locked in for 2 years almost, and they are seeing this as an opportunity to be out and to be a little free. So we have been trying to temper those kinds of actions. What we started with, for example, were virtual meetings. So we had our virtual workshop every Wednesday, where we pre-taped those shows and then we aired them so that everyone can see. We have just started our street to street kind of campaigning, but we're also doing that a little differently. We are simply going to the location, having the candidate with the mic from a music truck, so that it can spread to, the community can hear. And we are also broadcasting that on our social media page and our local Tobago Channel 5 page and on the television. So we are really asking people, you know what? Stay home. You know who we are. We have been at your homes all of this time. You know our telephone numbers. You know that we have been representing you. Because of the COVID, we need you to kind of stay away a little bit. Let's not do it the normal way, but definitely use the opportunity to come out and vote on December 6th.
Of course, on nomination day, we saw it was described like a carnival type atmosphere as a medical doctor. How did you feel to see that?
Well, actually, I'm not a medical doctor.
Will
My
the
doctoral
PDP
degree is in
take any
public health. And
responsibility?
if you heard the entire program, there was a point where I actually got on the mic and I threatened to shut this whole thing down if we did not behave. So yes, because I have actually been at the forefront of doing a lot of the education as it relates to COVID in Tobago. So I certainly do not want to be a part of a team that is responsible for a super spreader event. It was that one day. I think we got it under control pretty quickly. Even the TTPS was commenting how we were able to pull things under control quickly, and we go forward. So we are just asking the supporters, we're airing this. You know us, you know how to find us, you know our telephone numbers. You don't need to come to the events. We are broadcasting the events so that you can hear from us.
Dr. 𝐓𝒡𝒉, now it was a slightly different sentiment and feeling last election. compared to now, so much has changed, the pandemic, living in a pandemic and so on. What would you attest to the capturing of those 4 additional seats?
Well, in Tobago for the last 21 years, we have been governed by one organization, which is the PNM. And Tobago has actually seen that the kind of governance that they bring is not one that we want to continue. So if you recognize the Progressive Democratic Patriots, we contested our very first election in 2017, and we were able to capture 2 seats from the almighty 60-something-year-old organization. And shortly after that, we were able to then capture 4 additional seats 4 years after that. That shows that the people on the ground are really sick and tired of the kind of governance that we have been experiencing in Tobago, and they are willing to give the Progressive Democratic Patriots an opportunity. Everywhere I go, people come up to me, and it's kind of funny because, this would be in the middle of a funeral where we should be sitting there being somber, and the person next to me would kind of whisper, we fed up of them, so we're ready to go back to the election. So I think it's because of the kind of mismanagement. If you listen to my colleague, Assemblyman Farley Chavez-Augustine, he continually speaks about all of the Auditor General reports. If you listen to everything that's happening, the organization that has been governing Tobago for the last 21 years has simply not done a good job, and the people on the island are ready to change that.
What were the issues in January? The same issues now?
It seems like the issues in January have just been multiplied between then and now. And you would add all of the normal mismanagement, the normal lack of accountability, the normal lack of transparency, the normal lack of development. And you add on top of that, a perception that Tobagonians felt that the organization on the other side really insulted us, because we had an opportunity in January, because we had that 6-6 tie. Tobago was telling us that they wanted the 2 parties to work together to govern this island. And those on the other side simply refused to allow us to participate. They just, went with this holdover executive, and they were doing their own thing without being managed, without being accountable to the people of Tobago. And that is what I think drove Tobagonians over the edge, because they are saying, if this organization, who've been there for the last 21 years, is not willing to just share power as we, the people, said we want you to share power because of the 6-6 results, then it shows that you really are not ready, and we want to give this other organization, the Progressive Democratic Patriots, an opportunity to truly govern this island.
Is the PDP concerned about allegations made against its political leader and the impact of that on the results of the election?
Well, Mr. Watson Solomon Duke has been the political leader of the Progressive Democratic Patriots from the beginning. It is because of him going as an independent in 2015, I think, that we birthed the PDP. We are not concerned about that. As we have said very publicly, allegations are simply allegations. And the way our party is running, the way our party functions, if those allegations are true, we have said very publicly, do what needs to be done. Call in the police, have them do what they need to do. We are going to continue doing what we need to do. We are not concerned about that. We are not fearful about that. We know that all of these allegations just happen to pop up just before election every single time. And I think people in Tobago have actually started noticing that pattern as well. So no, we are not fearful about that. We are not worried about that. And either way, it needs to be very, very clear that Mr. Farley Chavez-Augustine is actually our candidate for Chief Secretary in the Tobago House of Assembly. And the people of Tobago really want Farley Chavez-Augustine to be the Chief Secretary. So, we are not concerned about all of those, the chatter that comes up around election time about Mr. Duke. Certainly we are not concerned.
If it's just allegations, why not allow Mr. Duke to be the candidate for Chief Sec?
Now, this was actually, again, this goes back to how the Progressive Democratic Patriots works. We actually had a general council meeting where the decision was made by our membership to have Mr. Farley Chavez-Augustine be the Chief Sec candidate. So this isn't a decision that we just made, 2-3 of us in a room. Our membership made that decision, and that is what we are going with.
So, Dr. B. Israel, we've heard from the opposition. Your take, was the SOE, you believe, lifted prematurely to allow for campaigning for the THA election?
I think that it was lifted. Maybe they needed an excuse to lift it. I could go into a whole nother discussion about how well the SOE worked in actually managing the COVID-19 infections, because I am not convinced that it actually worked the way they thought it should have. So maybe they're just using the elections as an excuse to lift it because they know, there's no other route to admit failure. So, that is my view about that. I don't know that it is going to benefit any one political party. We have been on the ground in Tobago, meeting with our people, representing the people all the time. So we don't even need this election season. They know us. We have been providing for them. We have been truly representing them. So SOE or no SOE, the Progressive Democratic Patriots is confident that we will be victorious on December 6th.
The PDP is confident of victory on December 6th. Thank you very much, Dr. B. Israel, for joining us. It's now time for the 7 a.m. news headlines.